Next was the grass court swing. So, Tim van Rijthoven had a surprising yet sublime tournament run with a win in Netherlands, beating Medvedev and Felix Auger-Aliassime on the way to the title. Then Berrettini, who had returned from injury, won back-to-back titles in Stuttgart and Queens, as well as her catch win in Halle. If you notice the trend, the strong grass court players were scooping up all the ATP 250s and 500s. Another unlikely winner of a grass court tournament was Stefanos Tsitsipas, winning his first ever one against RBA in the final. And then, in Wimbledon, Djokovic captured yet another Wimbledon, extending his unbeaten run at the championships against a surprise finalist, Nick Kyrgios. We were denied a blockbuster semi-final of Nadal versus Kyrgios. However, Nadal pulled out due to an ab injury he sustained against Taylor Fritz, as well as Alcaraz and Sinner having their first Grand Slam meeting, with Yannick coming out on top, and even in the next round pushing Novak to 5 sets, and then we got that iconic Djokovic sliding passing shot in his comeback win. After that Wimbledon, the main narrative was Thiem finally improving and having consecutive wins in the same tournament. He also made the semi-finals in Gstaad and the quarter-finals in Bastard, 2 clay court tournaments post-Wimbledon. Next-gen star Lorenzo Musetti also won his maiden title in Hamburg with a win over Alcaraz. The next week, Alcaraz lost another final, this time to Yannick Sinner in Umag. Now, it was the North American hardcourt swing, where Nick Kyrgios started off with winning the doubles and singles in Washington. And then Carreño Busta won his first Masters 1000 in Montreal. And then Borna Coric, who last year had a shoulder surgery and was in a sleeve, had come back to win his first Masters in Cincinnati with multiple top 10 wins such as Tsitsipas and Nadal. Then we move on to the US Open. And what a US Open this was. The breakout star of the year, Carlos Alcaraz, who had achieved the #1 ranking simultaneously by winning this tournament, and he won against Ruud in the final. This was such a historic moment, as the Grand Slam outcome in a final had never determined world #1 simultaneously. The match of the year contender was in the quarterfinals, as Alcaraz versus Sinner had another blockbuster match. Djokovic wasn't allowed to play in this slam due to his vaccination status, as well as the tournaments leading up to this, so therefore he wasn't allowed to accumulate any ranking points. Then, we had a surprise announcement, as Serena Williams had announced her retirement coming into this before this tournament, and then she got her one final send-off in the Flushing Meadows, and it was just amazing. The emotion through every match, the lively atmosphere, was something to behold, and even her diamond-like outfits were sublime. A week later, we got another crushing news. Another legend had announced his retirement, being Roger Federer. This was such a surprise because lots of people had expected him to make a final push in 2023. However, he said he wanted to play his final match at the Laver Cup with his alongside. This gave us several iconic scenes that week leading up to the Laver Cup of the Big Four practicing with each other. And this Laver Cup was very emotional. That Friday night where Federer played his last match and everyone gave their speeches was so emotional. And that Laver Cup seemed to be another blockbuster Laver Cup because Team World took their first ever Laver Cup title with a 13-8 win. I'm sure not many people expected this outcome because then elsewhere in this hardcourt swing, Novak won 2 back-to-back titles in Tel Aviv and Astana, beating Medvedev and Tsitsipas across both tournaments, as well as another phenomenal run, Felix Auger-Aliassime winning 3 titles in 3 weeks, going on an unbelievable run, beating Alcaraz and Rune on the way in Basel. From not winning any titles to winning 3 in a row, this has been amazing progress for Felix. Then in the Paris Masters, Rune announced himself again with another flagship win against Djokovic in the final. This was another match of the year contender as it was an amazing comeback win from the young Dane. Alcaraz had injured himself against Rune in the semi-final and announced his in the ATP finals that year, which he qualified for, being world #1. So Fritz got to play as an alternate. Then the week after that Paris Masters, Brandon Nakashima won the next gen finals, perhaps announcing a further surge in 2023. And Djokovic entered the year with a bang by winning the ATP finals, proving that he was still on top of his game with the win against Ruud in the final. That must have been quite upsetting for Ruud, because Ruud has now lost 2 Grand Slam finals and 1 ATP final in the same year. Nevertheless, it was still a great year. We go on to the match of the year. I think this is obvious. It has to be Alcaraz versus Sinner at the US Open. That match was absolutely crazy. We saw the summary. So there was match points saved, tie breaks that should have ended up the other way. It was crazy. And then Alcaraz could be seen as the newcomer of the year because he jumped to world number 1 from being ranked 30th when the year started. However, I think this has to go to Holger Rune because he jumped 92 spaces to almost end the year in the top 10. However, Hurkacz has like 7 more points than him, so he ended the year as 11th in the world. But nevertheless, such a great year for the young Dane. So that was my 2022 ATP review. Hope you enjoyed. Take care and